Alright, so I decided to do my case study over Doodley Sports Company versus Schmidt. This case, when I was reading through the cases, this one kind of stood out to me because it involves baseball. That's basically been my whole life is baseball. That's what I played in college. That's what I coach. That's what I hope to continue to do in the future. Um, and it was a very interesting one. It was the verdict of the case is one that I agreed with, so I was happy to read about a case that I actually agreed with the decision with the court. Just to give a little background on this case, Doodley Sports Company, they're a company that makes sports related products. In this case, they made a pitching machine. The pitching machine is why they were sued. I'll get to that here in a little bit. Danville High School purchased this pitching machine from them. They actually purchased it from a company called Emro Sporting Goods Company of Indianapolis. Um, but it's important to note that the name Doodley Sports Company was on the pitching machine, even though it was manufactured at Emro. Doodley had their name on the pitching machine. Again, that will come into play here in a little bit. Uh, the pitching machine, when it was delivered to Danville High School, like I said, was unpacked by Glendon Gibbs, the the vice principal, and John Trotter, who was the baseball coach at the time. When the package came, it came in a normal package, and the only warning label on it was a general warning label, and it said, and I quote, "Warning, safety first, read instructions before rotating machine either electrically or manually. Stay clear of throwing arm at all times. Don't remove this packing block until you fully understand the operation of the arm and the danger involved." End quote. Gibbs and Trotter set up the pitching machine, and they worked with it, they said, for about half an hour before putting the machine away in a closet where Trotter locked the closet door. Now, it's important to note that there were three doors. Trotter locked door 2. There were door 1 and door 3 were able to be accessed inside. Um, and those doors apparently were unlocked, so only one of the doors was locked. Now, in regards to the pitching machine was a metal pitching machine. This was back in 1970, so it wasn't up to standard, up-to-date pitching machine that you'd see today. Um, it was a metal arm, kind of like an iron mic if you're familiar with them. And how it worked was whenever the pitching machine, and it would be in the 9 o'clock position, it would receive the balls, and then at 10 o'clock would be where it was in its energized phase, and then from 10 o'clock it would be triggered either manually or electronically, and it would fire it, and it would stop at about the 4 o'clock. It's also important to note that the machine could be fired manually. It didn't have to be electronically. So even if it was unplugged, the arm could still fire forward. It's also important to note that the pitching machine was very easily triggered. So if it was ever in this 10 o'clock position, even they said not only could a slight vibration cause it to go, but climate changes could cause it. So changes in the atmosphere, they said, could cause it to fire. So now moving to the plaintiff here, Schmidt was the last name was all they gave. He was the next day he was sweeping out the closet, and while he was sweeping out the closet, the broom made contact with the machine, fired it, um, fired the arm forward, and hit him in the face. It caused cuts, lacerations. Uh, it partially ripped off his nose. He had 2 chipped teeth. He had skull bones that were exposed. Just a horrible situation. Um, so he obviously sued, and he sued Doodley Sports Company for that. He argued that they were negligent in their actions. They didn't provide enough warning on the pitching machine. They didn't do enough to protect people from the pitching machine. Um, Doodley, on the other hand, countered those arguments by saying they're not responsible to design a completely accident-proof product. They also said that they're only held for being responsible for handling with reasonable care, and that since even though there was no covering on the machine, it was an obvious danger, so the cover wasn't necessary. And they also stated that they gave the school a general warning label, so that was good. That should have been good enough warning. And another note on this was that when Coach Trotter put the pitching machine away, he left the pitching machine, he stated, in the 6 o'clock position. So there should have been no way for that pitching machine to fire. So Doodley stated that somebody in the time where the pitching machine was put away and Schmidt accidentally triggered it and was hit by it, somebody must have tampered with it, causing that to happen. The courts, when it was all said and done, the courts ruled with the plaintiff. They said that Doodley Sports Company was still responsible. They had a duty to protect others, and they didn't do a well enough job of giving out warnings and saying just how dangerous the machine was. And since their name was on it, they are held to the same standards as if they were to actually manufacture. So even though they didn't actually create it, because their name's on it and they market it as such, they are held to those same standards. Yeah, there was no any sort of protective covering to keep people from getting too close to the arm of the pitching machine. And there were, whenever the package arrived, there were no instructions on how to operate everything. So everything that the coach and the vice principal did was just on a trial by error basis. So the only reason why they knew that it was in the 10 o'clock position it would fire was just by simple trial and error. So the courts also ruled in favor of the plaintiff because of that. They said that Doodley did not do a good enough job of providing the instructions on how to properly operate the machine safely. In regards to being an athletic director, I think that it's just important to understand that we need to take the necessary steps to, no matter how big or small the equipment is, we need to understand how it all works, how to properly use it, how to properly store it, not just to protect our athletes, but also to protect our coaches. I mean, the coach in this situation wasn't found guilty of anything, but I mean, I'm sure it probably left a black eye on him. So I mean, it's just one situation where he wasn't sued for it, but in other cases, I'm sure there are times where the coaches have been sued for something like that. So we want to protect not only our athletes, but the coaches as well from situations like this. And it starts with us as ADs, understanding how the equipment works, minimizing that risk, and showing others how to properly run it as well. So that is my presentation.